Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Gentlemen, it's time. And ladies, hello. Gentlemen, my favorite, maybe my favorite YouTube channel. My favorite history YouTube channel for sure. There are some other great other ones. Other ones. It's early, okay? Well, it's almost 2 p.m., so. Let's go. Epic History, love the channel. Preemptive link to the original video from Epic History, top of the description. My name's Connor if you're new. Horrible intro, but that's not important. Learning is important. Let's go. Road to World War II. Oh god, 1931 to 34. This is not peace, it is an armistice for 20 years. Marshal Ferdinand Foch, Supreme Allied Commander in World War I, 1990. Wow. He was spot on. 20 years. Hmm?
1931. The world's leading powers are reeling from the impact of the Great Depression. Global trade has collapsed by 2/3. Unemployment is soaring. Economies around the world are in turmoil. In the United States, the world's largest economy, President Herbert Hoover struggles to provide an effective response. Great Britain, ruling the world's largest empire, is in financial and political crisis. France, ruling the second largest empire, is slightly better protected, but will soon face economic challenges of her own.
Is it more protected? It looks like they have the highest unemployment. Oh, I'm sorry, I was very wrong.
Protected, but will soon face economic challenges of her own. The Soviet Union, the world's only major socialist state, remains an international pariah. It is therefore largely insulated from the global crisis and is about to complete Stalin's first 5-year plan, a program intended to rapidly boost Soviet industrial and agricultural output. In Asia, China escapes the worst of the Depression, but faces crises of its own. That year, devastating floods claim an estimated 2 million lives, while Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government fights a brutal civil war against Chinese communist rebels.
So that's already going on in 1931.
10 years, these 5 states, the USA, Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and China, will constitute the major Allied powers in the largest conflict in human history, World War II. However, in 1931, there is little to indicate that such a catastrophe is looming or inevitable. But that year, these same world events are shaping the paths of 3 other nations.
And Germany, Italy.
Germany, humbled and humiliated by defeat in World War I, is now a fragile democratic republic. No nation is hit harder by the Great Depression than Germany, thanks to its reliance on US loans, which have now ended abruptly. Banks and businesses collapse. Unemployment leaps to 24% and will peak the following year at 40%. In July...
Guys, I'm curious to think how much you think the fairness or unfairness to you of the German punishments post World War I. Do you think they were extremely unfair, and do you think that it did play a huge role in starting the Second World War, which would be a really big lesson for the world, knowing that when you defeat an enemy and humiliate them so much, it can create worse problems in the future.
President Hoover offers some relief. Germany's war reparations, the money she must pay to the victors of World War I, will be suspended. But the hardship experienced by ordinary Germans is reshaping German politics, as support drifts to the far left and far right.
That reminds me of something happening all over North America and Europe today. Is that the left and right are growing while the center is shrinking. It's not a good sign.
Italy is now a one-party fascist state, ruled by dictator Benito Mussolini, who's held power since 1922. Italy is also hit hard by the Depression, though massive state intervention alleviates some of the pain. And in East Asia, the Empire of Japan. Here, the impact of the Depression is not as severe, but within this mixed democracy, there are alarming signs of political extremism and militarism.
And they need oil.
In 9 years, these three states, Germany, Italy, and Japan, will form a military alliance commonly known as the Axis.
Question, guys. So the Italian current present-day Italian flag is this without this Denmark-looking symbol here and the crown. What did this resemble back in the day? A lot of smart people watch. So
Germany, unified in 1871. Italy, unified in 1861.
They're all very young countries.
Japan, an ancient state reinvented by the Meiji Restoration of 1868. In historic terms, all are young nations, and all feel unjustly treated by the World War I peace settlement. In all, there are now growing demands for what older, established powers already have, and what they have been denied. Empire.
So, this is sort of a justified feeling, and yet I know that if these powers then got an imperial empire of their own, and say other powers around the world wanted the same, I'm sure that these would deny them just as they're being denied. So I do recognize that that's not a great excuse broadly, but it is something that, you know, France and Great Britain and America have that these countries don't. And it's only natural that they want to gain something that those powers have. Not saying imperialism is right. I can't believe I have to say that, but I get it.
It is empire that is seen to confer status, security, and prosperity. A panacea to troubles at home. A fulfillment of destiny abroad. The 1930s, a decade of economic turmoil and failing international cooperation, will offer a window of opportunity to these three powers.
Stay hydrated,
an opportunity
guys.
To avenge past humiliations and seize the empires they believe are rightfully theirs. It is a path that will put Germany, Italy, and Japan on a collision course with the established great powers, with disastrous consequences for the world.
So I'm not saying it's not hypocritical of Germany and Japan to want more power and land and imperial holdings, but I know for a fact that if they were in the British and French position and other countries were challenging that power, they would act the same. So I can call them hypocrites, but at the same time, I see what they mean, you know?
This video is sponsored by
Great game.
Hearts of Iron 4, the game that gives you the chance to lead your chosen nation through the 1930s and into the great conflict that
Horrible at
awaits.
this game, but I like to play
What
it.
decisions would you make? Aggressive imperial expansion, building an industrial powerhouse, or developing strategic global alliances? With Hearts
Guys, I love Hearts of Iron 4. I'm terrible at playing, but what I do like is I know so many Hearts of Iron like cheat codes that you can type in the open chat box in the game, that and I love like picking random countries around the world and making them a bit more powerful than they would be, and then letting it play out to see how the game would play out, you know?
of Iron 4, you can take the
fun.
helm of any country and refight World War II your way, with control over economic planning, diplomacy, the organization of your armed forces, and of course, military strategy. Far from just simulating history, Hearts of Iron 4 lets you rewrite the script, with every decision opening up new historical paths.
Like I can do add _ party _ popularity space F space 100 to like the United States at the beginning of the game, so they turn fascist, and then I just let the game play just so I can see like how would World War I maybe play out if the USA was a fascist government. So even if you don't know how to play the game, it's confusing. It's fun if you know some cheat codes and you can just see how it would play out, you know?
And Paradox, the creators of Hearts of Iron, are constantly adding new themes and features. The new expansion pack, No Compromise, No Surrender, brings even greater historical depth to the East Asian theater. It's a crucial Second World War front, with China's struggle particularly overlooked in the West, but one which we'll be covering in full in our own series. If you want to try Hearts of Iron 4 for free, don't miss the free-to-play weekend on Steam from the 20th to the 24th of November. Just
I'm pausing a lot.
click the link in our video description.
If you're interested in Hearts of Iron 4, guys, by the way, it's a great game. Make sure to use the link from Epic History, their promo codes, their links. It's only the right thing to do. And the one thing you'll realize in Hearts of Iron 4 is that the Soviet Union is impossible to kill. I'll weaken the Soviet Union and I'll like make Germany stronger or whatever. They still lose. The Soviet Union never dies. The entire world is suffering from a terrible crisis and a lack of confidence. The last hopes of the world are now in our hands. Nicolae Titulescu, President of the League of Nations General Assembly, 1931.
The first major international crisis of the 1930s is in Manchuria, northeastern China. Japanese nationalists see
Manchukuo.
China as the natural arena for their imperial expansion. And Japan has been extending its influence here over many years. There is already a large Japanese military force based in Dalian, known as the Kwantung Army.
Port Arthur.
Now, nationalist officers from this army decide to force the hand of their own government. Acting on their own initiative, they blow up a section of Japanese-owned railway. A false flag operation that becomes known as the Mukden
Is that
incident.
the Marco Polo?
The Kwantung Army uses it as a pretext to invade Manchuria. Local Chinese troops are no match for modernized Japanese armed forces. And Chinese President Chiang Kai-shek is more focused on fighting his internal communist enemies in the south.
He's kidnapped by his own people to make him
In 3 months, the
ally
Japanese
with,
overrun
Mao.
most of Manchuria and turn it into their own puppet state, Manchuria. The Japanese people are jubilant. The country has been gripped by war fever. But Western powers
Now, if I'm Japan, And I understand that Miyamoto. I understand the intention of attacking Pearl Harbor to make sure that when the Japanese do try and go conquer much more of East Asia and Oceania, then they don't have to worry about Americans intervening, right? But Americans were already super anti-war, especially in 1931 and in the 30s. And so it's like, why not just don't touch American islands, American territory, take over French, German, Portuguese, Dutch holdings there, and maybe the United States still just doesn't get involved, you know? And so I wonder if that would have been a better choice than just attacking Pearl Harbor, hoping to knock out the American Pacific Fleet, gaining them as a certain enemy, but gaining time. I wonder if that was a mistake for the Japanese.
Japan's attack is a flagrant breach of the Kellogg-Briand Pact. This treaty, just 3 years old, committed all signatories, including Japan, to giving up war as a tool of national policy. The League of Nations, the international organization that is supposed to save...
I'm sorry.
...years old, committed all Briand Pact. This treaty, just 3 years old, committed all signatories, including Japan, to giving up war as a tool of national policy. The League of Nations, the international organization that is supposed to safeguard world peace, meets urgently in Geneva. But Japan is one of the League countries.
Don't worry, guys. After World War II, we'll set up the United Nations, which will be so much more effective than the League of Nations. Definitely. Surely.
Council's 4 permanent members. But Japan is one of the League Council's 4 permanent members. And rather than condemn the attack, the League decides to send a commission to investigate. A few weeks later, further fighting breaks out in Shanghai. But it is clear that Western powers, distracted by the economic crisis, will not go to war for the sake of China. Their inaction is noted by observers across the world.
War puts the stamp of nobility on those who have the courage to meet it. What is fascism? Benito Mussolini. El Duce.
1932 begins with an Italian victory in Libya, where General Badoglio declares the end of a 9-year campaign to crush local resistance to Italian rule. Italy's armed forces have used chemical weapons, concentration camps, and mass executions against the Libyan people. Their successful pacification allows Mussolini to plan fresh conquests as he dreams of a new Roman Empire.
Jinx.
In Western Europe, the site of bloody trench warfare just 14 years earlier, hopes for a lasting peace are based on the 1925 Locarno Pact. This guarantees Germany's western borders and requires Germany and its neighbors to submit all disputes to the League of Nations for mediation.
That'll work.
There is a mood of optimism among European diplomats, known as the spirit of Locarno, a hope that war in Europe may have been consigned to the past. In February, a World Disarmament Conference opens in Geneva, attended by 61 states. In June, the Lausanne Conference cuts German war reparations by 90%. But it will prove a false dawn. In Germany that year, federal elections are dominated by Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party.
Guys, so Hitler wasn't even, like, when I think of the Nazi Party, I think, like, I don't think, but I used to think like Adolf started that stuff. But no, he kind of, similar to Mussolini, he kind of switched and then became super popular in their respective parties, right? Let me know if I'm incorrect.
His attitude to disarmament will soon become very clear. Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, dictator Joseph Stalin continues his drive to make the state more resilient against external and internal enemies. His first 5-year plan focuses on expanding heavy industry, almost doubling the Soviet industrial workforce and dramatically increasing output of steel, iron and coal. It's impossible to be sure by how much, as official figures are constantly manipulated and inflated by communist officials. It's clear, however, that tank and aircraft production are expanding massively. While in Ukraine, the completion of the Dnieper Dam, the largest in Europe, gives a major boost to Soviet electricity generation. But in the countryside, the policy of forcing peasants into large state-controlled farms, collectivization, has proved disastrous.
No, surely that would work.
A catastrophic collapse in the harvest has resulted in famine on a terrifying scale. The total death toll over 4 years is estimated at between 6 and 9 million. Around
I could go on about the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was barely a good guy in World War II. People are going to say they lost 22 million people. Without them, you couldn't have defeated Germany. That's true. They also were terrible. Awful.
half these deaths are in Ukraine, where the disaster will be remembered as the Holodomor.
A Holocaust level of deaths. But they are on the winner's side, so...
Kazakhstan is also hard hit. Soviet authorities do everything they can to cover up the horrifying truth of what's happening.
Classic.
In Spain...
Am I being obnoxious here? Sorry.
Where a new republic has been proclaimed the previous year, Prime Minister Manuel Azaña enacts sweeping reforms, aiming to modernize the country and curtail the influence of the Catholic Church. Such moves are bitterly opposed by conservatives. In neighboring Portugal,
Sorry, guys.
Azaña enacts sweeping reforms, aiming to modernize the country and curtail the influence of the Catholic Church. Such moves are bitterly opposed by conservatives. In neighboring Portugal that summer, Antonio Salazar is appointed Prime Minister. He goes on to establish an authoritarian regime, Estado Novo, that he will lead until 1968.
New state? Estado Novo?
In the Middle East, the Kingdom of Iraq gains full independence from British rule and is admitted to the League of Nations. In Japan, the nationalist, militarist assault on the country's democracy steps up a gear. In February, a conspiracy to wipe out the country's leading liberal figures fails. But in May, a group of young naval officers shoot dead Prime Minister Inukai Tsuyoshi. In the United States of America, the 1932 presidential election is won by Franklin D. Roosevelt of the Democratic Party. To combat the effects of the Great Depression, he promises a new deal for the American people. Only a foolish optimist can deny the dark realities of the moment. He will declare at his inauguration. This nation asks for action, and action now.
Hitler experiment had to be made some time or another, and we shall see now. We shall now see what it will bring forth. I can't read. Jesus. The Hitler experiment had to be made some time or another, and we shall now see what it will bring forth. Sir Horace Rumbold, British Ambassador to Germany.
Germany is in political deadlock. The previous year, federal elections had filled the Reichstag with Nazis, Social Democrats, and Communists, all of whom detest each other. In January, to break the impasse, President Hindenburg appoints a new Chancellor of Germany, the leader of the Nazi Party, Adolf Hitler. It's predicted that more moderate and experienced politicians will be able to curb Hitler's more extreme views, of which there are many.
Yeah,
Adolf Hitler, born in Austria, had served as a senior private in the German army in World War I. After the war, he became leader of a fringe nationalist party based in Munich, the German Workers' Party.
And then
he renames it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Nazi Party for short.
Okay, so he did join a different party that was started, but he did rename it into the NSADP. NSADP?
Its policies combine extreme ethno-nationalism with total rejection of the Versailles peace settlement, hostility to capitalism and big business, and a rabid hatred of Jews, who are blamed for all Germany's woes. Rabid hatred of Jews, hostility to capitalism with total rejection of the Versailles peace settlement, hostility to capitalism and big business, and a rabid hatred of Jews, who are blamed for all Germany's woes. Above all, its stab-in-the-back defeat in World War I, which is itself a nationalist myth. Many of Hitler's own deepest beliefs on Germany's need for an empire and living space at the expense of lesser...
I need to shut the hell up. I annoy myself sometimes.
Many of Hitler's own deepest beliefs on Germany's need for an empire and living space at the expense of lesser races in the East are available for anyone to read in Volume 2 of his political manifesto, Mein Kampf, published in 1926.
Guys, is it true that he took inspiration from American Manifest Destiny?
Many Germans are disillusioned with centrist politicians and their failure to tackle the economic crisis. Hitler's powerful oratory and promise of radical solutions has strong appeal. Many middle-class Germans see the Nazis as the best way to keep the communists out of power. Now, with Hitler in charge, events begin to move quickly.
Hindenburg?
In February 1933, a Dutch communist, Marinus van der Lubbe, sets fire to the Reichstag building in Berlin.
Was this a myth?
He is acting alone, but the Nazis accuse the German Communist Party of attempting a coup. Civil and political rights are quickly suspended by emergency decree. Communists are jailed. Their newspapers shut down. In March, Germany holds new elections, during which the Nazis' political rivals are harassed and terrorized by their paramilitary thugs, the SA and SS. The Nazi Party wins.
Maybe stupid question, but where are the actual German police during all of this?
45 and SS. The Nazi Party wins 44% of the vote and takes effective control of the Reichstag. At the end of the month, it passes the Enabling Act. This frees Hitler from all constitutional checks and balances. He can now pass new laws without consulting the Reichstag or President Hindenburg. 1st of April, the Nazis organize a one-day nationwide boycott of all Jewish businesses. By the end of the summer, Nazi concentration camps have opened at Oranienburg and Dachau.
I've been to Dachau.
And all political parties in Germany have been banned, except the Nazi Party. Hitler's next target is the despised Versailles Treaty that ended World War I. Publicly, he rejects its war reparations and the so-called war guilt clause that blamed Germany for starting the war. In secret, he orders large-scale German rearmament in defiance of Versailles restrictions on the size of German armed forces. The existence of an illegal German air force is already widely known, and it's growing by 60 aircraft a month. The dramatic revival of nationalism and militarism in Germany is plain for all to see. At the Geneva Disarmament Conference, Germany demands parity between its armed forces and those of France. When this is rejected, Germany quits the conference. The same month, Hitler withdraws Germany from the League of Nations. It is the League's second major blow of the year. In February, the League report on Japan's invasion of Manchuria had finally been presented to the General Assembly. It had called on Japan to withdraw from Manchuria. Japan responds by quitting the League of Nations. The international institutions designed to maintain peace are flailing.
Japan subsequently withdrew from the League of Nations. That body proved itself incapable of stemming.
This is a big thing, is that the League of Nations and the UN, you could say, the League of Nations is protecting the interests of the current status quo, which is a good idea to stop killing around the world. But there's going to be a grievance with countries that aren't as powerful as Britain and France. And I'm sure it seems like, okay, we're going to stop all wars. But it's kind of like playing a board game of Risk or something. And this is going to be a childish comparison. And like, you're doing really well, and then saying like, all right, now everything else is over, the game stops, let's all have peace. And it's like, well, you still hold all the power, you know? I think of this about Ethiopia wanting to invade Somaliland, northern Somalia. And at first, I'm like, of course, no one should invade another country. But a country like Ethiopia, which is crippled by not having a port to the sea, Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and therefore the Red Sea, and therefore Indian Ocean and Mediterranean. And so this is one of the things where I'm like, respecting borders is the good thing, but you have to sympathize with countries like Ethiopia who are like, okay, so now you control vast territories and empires, and now the game's over. Borders aren't going to change. Now it's over. I sympathize with people being like, well, that's bullshit, you know? Do you know what I mean there? Does that make sense?
The tide of aggression, either in Europe or in Asia.
If I'm saying anything stupid, ridiculous, wrong, call me out, please.
A few foreign diplomats take the time to read Hitler's political manifesto, Mein Kampf. Some dismiss it as incoherent rambling, but others feel a deep sense of alarm. In Britain, Conservative Member of Parliament Winston Churchill warns of Germany's grim dictatorship and the return of its militaristic spirit. But in the early 1930s, there is little appetite in Britain or France to confront Germany. The trauma of World War I is too fresh. The public mood is one of pacifism. In Britain, some even wonder if the Versailles Treaty had been too harsh on Germany. Perhaps some of Hitler's demands are not so unreasonable.
Look at the Treaty of Versailles. Wait, was it the Treaty of Versailles? No, not the Treaty of Versailles. The Vienna Conference in the 1810s, late 1810s, where they didn't want to make France too weak, even though they just committed a decades-long war and destruction and killing across all of Europe. And I'm not saying it was because they worried that France would come back, but it was more because Austria and Britain didn't want too weak of a France, so that Prussia and Russia, they look forward so that, you know, they didn't want Prussia and Russia to grow even stronger and take advantage of a weakened France. So that unintentioned decision to not make France too weak made it so that there were much less wars in the 1800s after the Napoleonic Wars. You had the Crimean War, you had the Franco-Prussian War, but those were nothing compared to the Napoleonic Wars and World War I and World War II. And so you do have to see how punishing a country too much can have drastic consequences.
Besides which, the Great Depression has led to severe cuts in military spending, meaning neither Britain nor France is in any state to fight a European war. France is in the middle of a full-blown political and economic crisis. There have been 10 governments in the last 3 years. National income has fallen by 30%. Defense spending has fallen by 25%. But the French are working on a major military project, which they believe will ensure national security
I visited
for
Marginal
years
Line.
to come. In the US, meanwhile, there is strong support for isolationism and a desire to avoid all overseas entanglements. The US is not a member of the League of Nations, and facing 25% unemployment, Roosevelt is fully preoccupied with domestic politics.
Germany is again the Germany of before the war, with a new fanatical look in its eye. Arnold Nicholson, British diplomat. I know you can read, I like, you know.
In June, Hitler orders a ruthless purge of the Nazi Party's paramilitary wing, the SA, or Brown Shirts. Brown shirt violence and intimidation have been a crucial part of Hitler's rise to power. But they have served their purpose and are despised by the German army, whose loyalty Hitler now values more. In the so-called Night of the Long Knives, prominent SA leaders are rounded up and shot without trial. Since 1932, Austria has been a right-wing, one-party state, led by Chancellor Engelbert Dollfuss. He regards the Nazis as dangerous rivals and has banned the party in Austria. In July 1934, Austrian Nazis assassinate Dollfuss, part of an attempted coup that is to pave the way to unification with Germany.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Anschluss.
They expect support from Hitler. But Mussolini has other ideas. He regards Austria as an important buffer state between Italy and Hitler's resurgent Germany. So he sends Italian troops to the Brenner Pass on the Austrian border, threatening to intervene if Hitler attempts to annex Austria. Germany's armed forces are still very weak. Hitler is forced to back down. The Nazi plot in Austria fails. In August 1934, 86-year-old German President Hindenburg dies in office. As a war hero and statesman, he receives a lavish state funeral. Hindenburg's authority and conservatism has acted as a limited check on Hitler's actions. No longer. Hitler swiftly abolishes the office of president. He will now wield its powers in his new role as Fuhrer of the German state and people. On the 20th of August, a new law requires all German military officers and civil servants to swear an oath of personal loyalty to Hitler. That October, King Alexander of Yugoslavia makes a state visit to France. Alexander is regarded as a crucial unifying figure for the young Yugoslav state. But on his arrival in Marseille, he is assassinated by a Bulgarian nationalist. French Foreign Minister Louis Barthou is also killed in the crossfire.
Did not know that.
Autumn, Britain learns that the German army is now 300,000 strong, 3 times what is permitted under the Versailles Treaty. Germany has further plans for expansion and mechanization.
Angeles,
Tentative British steps towards rearmament begin, with a commitment to expand the Royal Air Force by 40 squadrons in 4 years.
It's interesting how even in 1934, the Air Force, the airplanes of the Army, of the Air Force, still look so much like akin to World War I fighters. And then in just a few years, boom, they look like classic World War II airplanes.
By 40 squadrons in 4 years. In December, there's a further blow to attempts to limit global rearmament when Japan announces it will not renew the Washington Naval Treaty.
Oil embargo.
Signed in 1922, the treaty had fixed the size of British, American, and Japanese fleets in the ratio 5-5-3. This is now seen as an insult to Japan's
Yeah. What do you mean 5-5-3?
status as a major power. Though one Japanese naval officer has pointed out that the treaty may have been to Japan's advantage, given the US's far greater industrial capacity. He is Rear Admiral Yamamoto, the architect of the Pearl Harbor attack. Thank you to Hearts of Iron 4 for sponsoring this video. Don't forget you can try out the Ultimate World War II strategy game for free on Steam from the 20th to the 24th of November. Just click the link in the video description. Thank you to our series consultant, World War II historian Professor Richard Overy of the University of Exeter.
Thank you. I hope you guys can understand my, like, when I say, 3 instead of 5 and 5 for the British, 3 ships for the Japanese, as being a bit insulting. Of course, I know World War II, Japanese, Germans, not exactly the good guys, all right? But just without a hindsight perspective, I do see it as an insult. So I hope you can know I'm trying to give some nuance here. If I said anything wrong, stupid, call me out. Answering any of my questions, you guys are always great. I love Epic History so much. They're my favorite history channel. Hope everyone's doing well. Love y'all. Would appreciate any comments. See you guys next time. Bye.